Chapter 16 The False Prince. The aromas of spiced meat and fresh baked bread were inescapable as Ma and I entered Rothenwood through a back entrance. The kitchen wasn't far away. "I'm getting dinner, right?" I asked. "Someone will bring it to your room after your bath. Tell me, Ma, is it true that the wealthy smell worse than the poor?" Ma arched an eyebrow. "Why do you say that?" "It seems since joining Connor's household that I've needed to bathe much more often. My fleas have all but abandoned me." "Let's hope so," Mott said with a chuckle. Then he handed me off to Errol for another scrubbing and a bath that had been set up in a corner of our bedroom. My bath was so quick, Errol said he doubted I could have gotten entirely clean. I told him it was good enough considering I'd only get dirty tomorrow, and not to push the matter. He didn't. "Where's my dinner?" I growled. "Connor nearly starved us today." "Someone should have it here shortly," Errol said. "You should hurry and dress. Then get out and wait for it. Knock when it gets here." Earl nodded and was left the room while I fumbled with my nightclothes. I checked the drawers again for my old clothes, but they still weren't there. I'd speak with Errol if they weren't back tomorrow. Knock came to the door and I yelled at Errol to enter, while I pulled the robe around myself. Someone sniffed and I turned. Imogen stood in the doorway, holding a tray of dinner. She clearly wished someone else had been ordered to bring the food. For that matter, so did I. "I thought you were Errol," I said, as if that would make any difference. Imogen glanced at the door as to indicate he was still in the hallway. Then she held up the tray and shrugged. "Oh, right." I pointed to a table near Tobias's bed. He had a few papers laid out that were full of notes. He was studying material more advanced than Rhoda and I would ever get to before the 2 weeks ended. Imogen set the tray down and started to leave, but I said, "Wait." It hadn't really occurred to me what to say at this point, nor could she respond to anything I might come up with. Finally I mumbled, "I'm sorry. If I caused you any trouble, then I'm sorry for that." She nodded, what I hoped was an acceptance of my apology, and even offered something close to a smile. "I'm saved," I finally said. "Strange, I know, but who gets to choose their name?" She pointed to herself, and I said, "Yes, I know. You're Imogen." She started to leave again, but I added, "Could you help me with something? I need a thread and a needle. I ripped one of my shirts out on that horse ride, and I've got to sew it up." Imogen held out her hand, indicating she would sew it for me, but I shook my head. "I'd rather do it myself. If Connor finds out I've torn his new clothes, I'd get in trouble. Can you get me the needle?" She nodded and pointed at the cut on my face. "It's okay. I get hurt a lot. I'm used to it." Tiny wrinkles formed around her brows. She opened her mouth as if there were something she wanted to say, then closed it and lowered her hand. "You are too familiar, Imogen." Tobias's servant marched into the room. He picked up a book from the shelf near the door and hurled it at her, hitting her in the back. "You were supposed to give him the food, then get out." In an instant I got Imogen behind me, then pulled out a knife that had been under my pillow and held it out to the servant. "How dare you!" I yelled, so angry the words sputtered from my mouth. "She's just a kitchen girl." The servant stiffened, alarmed by my reaction, but clearly confused too. I swiped the knife through the air, forcing him to back up. He gave a cry for help, and looked around like he wanted to run, but I had him cornered. Hearing the commotion, Mott ran in. "Lower the knife, Sage." His eyes widened. "That's mine." He lifted the leg of his trousers where the knife had been sheathed. "When did you—" "Oh, the horse ride back. I needed a knife to cut the meat. They didn't give me one." Mott inched toward me and held out his hand. "Give it back, Sage. Now." I reversed the blade and gave the knife to him by the handle. "Did you see what he did to her?" Mott gently put a hand on Imogen's shoulder. "You may go, girl." Imogen didn't look at me as she left the room, and I didn't stop glaring at Tobias's servant. "He's not welcome in this room anymore," I said to Mott. "He shouldn't work for Connor another minute after what I just saw." "You may go as well," Mott told the servant. He tripped over his own feet in a hurry to leave the room. Mott stared at his knife a moment. then wiped the blade with his shirt, as if it dirtied it. Your mother was kitchen staff, I believe. Barmaid. Same thing. Obviously, you have some sympathy for Imogen. It has nothing to do with that. She didn't do anything wrong, and he threw a book at her. And do you think you helped just now? Do you think that made anything better for her? I kicked at the floor, angry with myself and angry with Mott too, though for no clear reason, maybe because I hated it when he was right. She's well treated here, Mott continued. Tobias's servant will be disciplined, and you should be on your knees thanking me for not reporting this to Connor. What I want to know is why you took my knife. I told you, I can't cut the meat without one. Do you feel you're in danger here? From Roden and Tobias? I shook my head. No. From me, Connor? You work for Connor. If there's any danger from him, there's danger from you. Mott didn't disagree. He couldn't. He replaced the knife in the sheath and strapped it to his ankle, then pointed at dinner. Eat up and get a good night's sleep. Tomorrow will be harder than today. There's nothing to do up here but stare at Tobias's stack of books. Try to read one. It could only help you. I'd rather join the others. It's not fair that I'm kept up here, while Roden and Tobias get to show off to Connor. Connor is furious with you for losing a prize mare. Trust me when I say it's better that you stay up here tonight. It'll take a miracle for Connor to choose me as prince. Despite the truth of my words, I couldn't help but smile. Yes, Mott agreed, and then added, though I doubt even a miracle could save you now.